Oh,
Just to get real personal with everybody, I mean, I heard a third of folks saying during introductions, you're not sure what's next and what's purpose and what to focus on. And it was really cool to have a place in life, albeit virtual, on the phone, very powerful, for guys to say, we'll tell you when you're hogging the time and you're not. We want to be there for you. And at other times, your pack is not too heavy to carry. Now ultimately, you know, looking at one of the purposes to help us to fulfill our respective destinies and our collective destiny, that's huge. Because without that, you can quit. And these guys are going, we're not going to let you quit. We're going to pick up the pack, you know, we're going to bridge the gap. And what you've been called to do is important, so failure's not an option. And I don't know that that happens if you just do a conference once a year, or you don't really press through the difficulty of having those kinds of relationships.
So let me just stop here for a couple minutes. What do you see in the way we relate?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does Tony still laugh inappropriately?
Occasionally.
He knows he's going to get busted on it,
yeah.
Is there something behind that question?
I didn't know whether to ask that or not.
I just wondered if real learning was taking place.
Whoa.
Well, you know what, Jerry, that led to an offline conversation for us, because I said, I think there's truth in what you said, Tony, but you're shrinking from telling me the full measure of what you want to say to me, and I want to hear it.
Yeah, I had made a joking comment about something I should have just come out and confronted him about.
Right.
And you know, one of my own recognitions through that was that I try to manage my intensity in different ways so that I don't overpower people. And so how do I do that well, and how do I do that not well, and what am I really doing, and how do I need to be more conscious about that? So it's helped me think more about what I'm doing. And other comments on what do you see in the way we relate? Is it attractive? Is it not attractive? Is it?
I'm thinking, when you had asked what do you want in a cell, and I was thinking, I want to be known. It seems to affect all those accountability and action steps all come out of somebody who really knows me. And hearing you guys talk and the stuff that you shared, I would say that you're getting to know each other. I'm really...
I think it's funny, Larry, that you shied away from the word accountability, but you were really, you were not only supporting Russ, but you were really holding him accountable.
Oh, yeah.
You were going there, and that in the way that we're thinking is a positive thing.
Right.
When that process took place. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think being willing to go through that conflict stage, which is essential to any group's formation, without dropping out, is good. And too many, especially people in leadership, when they get into small groups of one sort or another, and they run into uncomfortable situations, take the easy way out, and they say, I'm not going to go further. I'm not going to address it with the group. I'm going to bow out, and so that you continued, that you addressed the conflict, and that you were willing to confront each other on the tendency to move away from it is really important and really commendable on your part.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Quick reflection on what you see in the way we're communicating.
Yeah, I think all that is a higher level of difficulty in a virtual group than when you're in the same place face to face. So I think it's easier to back out of a group like that probably. You don't feel the same physical bond might not be the right word, but it's a different situation, and I think it's probably harder to have the hard conversations and the confronting and the talking it out, and just, you know, I heard you say there were emails going back and forth, there were individual phone calls going back and forth, and so it's just a level of difficulty more than if you were physically meeting together. So just going into this, I think realizing that.
Well, John was clear then that this was going to cost time and effort. I mean, time on the phone. I was watching Larry and Russ go back and forth with some lengthy, well thought out writing, and simultaneously I was thinking, is this worth it? I got enough stress. And you guys, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but the time and energy you guys put into that held me in, because it was like, you know what, if they're putting all this into it, I don't want to take the path of least resistance.
John, I think, Ray, two things for me. One is, we discussed it. We meet once every 3 weeks now, I think it is. But, you know, you only have so much you can give. I mean, like I said, coming in, I have other in-the-face groups that I'm involved with. So you do have to be aware of the boundaries you're going to draw. And Tony's been challenged. When I get in, I get in. It's just kind of the way I am. So Tony's been helpful to me to sort of realize, okay, you know, I have to draw some boundaries. So that is important, so we don't get overwhelmed. The second thing I would say is, I think in a virtual group, it takes more transparency. I mean, I've said in a phone conversation, I'm tearing up, guys. You just need to know. Because, you know, if I'm tearing up, then I need them to pause, and we need to sit here a moment. And I mean, I work hard at an inflection in a voice, and then I may say, "What are you feeling right now?" Because I'm wondering if this, you know, if Jeff's tearing up. And so I think a virtual conversation makes us be. You got to listen even more intently. You got to be more focused because you don't have the visual contact, and you have to be more disclosing of what's really happening inside of you, so they can pick up on it.
Which means the personal
Non-verbals,
response.
2/3 of communication.
What now?
Non-verbals, 2/3 of
Right.
communication, you have none of that.
That's right.
Which means you have to, each one of us has to be more responsible for ourselves.
Right.
We can't depend on the other person to pull us out. We have to say things like that, be more vulnerable.
As I listen to how you all work through it, one of the interesting things for me is the idea of, well, here's this side conversation and here's this side conversation. And then when we come back together, we're not sure who's talked about what and just how much like real life that is. And in terms of really successfully navigating key relationships, whether it's work or anything else, to be able to come together perhaps as a group and say, well, I had a one-on-one with Ross, or, you know, I did this email, and understand that that's just part of how we do it, and not feeling excluded, not feeling left out, but just being able to go, wasn't that interesting? Why didn't he email me?
And by the way, I think that we probably still have a ways to go, and I'll speak for myself where that's concerned, but I think we've done a good job of saying publicly to one another, let's talk about this offline, just you and I, and then hitting reply to all,
Yeah.
you know, so that everybody's in on things.
Or, so let me, I want to take us in a little different direction here, so, let me hear from each of you, just like a minute. How has this impacted you, or what's been valuable to you in this group?
I think for me, the peer aspect of it has been meaningful to me and worthwhile. Secondly, there's one issue that I brought up that was a fairly significantly vulnerable issue that would have been easier in some ways to bring up in a peer group rather than a group of guys I meet with regularly.
Would you be willing to?
Yeah, I have a challenge. I mean, I'm a nonprofit plus a for-profit, and so I mean, I do donor development, and so even the people that are close to me, I mean, you know, some of those guys give. So I have some issues with the way I relate to value and finances. That affects me at times and can take me down. And so I brought this up. I put it in my email update. They decided to pursue me. Tony did. Excellent pursuit, and opened up an area that I journaled on later, probably a page and a half of journal. I sent them that journal, and this has greatly impacted my life. I mean, I came out of a situation just 10 days ago, down in a situation, and I went back to what I gained here, and the Lord encouraged me, and I handled it fine. After 30 minutes, maybe a year ago, a day would have, maybe 2 days I'd have been affected by that. So for me, that one situation alone, what God did through the group, and then in further journaling and staying engaged with the group, has been worth the whole process.